Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are opening up a case file on what might be one of humanity's biggest mysteries. We're going to rewind the clock, go way back to the very beginning, and investigate the blueprint of civilization itself.
You know, for thousands and thousands of years, humans were hunter-gatherers. We lived in small, nomadic groups, just trying to survive. And then, almost overnight in the grand scheme of things, everything changed. All of a sudden, you've got complex society, writing, laws, advanced science. It just seems to explode out of nowhere. The big question for our investigation is, how on earth did it all happen so fast?
So the story we usually get is that it was all a slow, gradual process. But the source material we're digging into today, well, it offers a pretty different theory. We're going to follow a trail of evidence, from ancient texts to massive stone structures, to look into a really extraordinary claim that we had help.
Okay, so our investigation kicks off in Mesopotamia, what we call the cradle of civilization. And right at the heart of it, we find a major anomaly. The sudden, and I mean fully formed, appearance of the Sumerian civilization around 3000 BCE.
Just take a second and look at this list. I mean, wow. The Sumerians didn't just invent one or two little things. They basically laid out the entire foundation of modern society. Their base 60 math system, that's why we have a 60-minute hour and a 360-degree circle. They came up with mass literacy, the plow, even created the alloy bronze. These weren't baby steps, folks. This was a quantum leap forward that just seems to come out of absolutely nowhere.
And get this, if you want to talk about advanced, their medicine was unbelievable. Ancient texts talk about their doctors, the Asu, who actually understood hygiene, they used catheters, and they did these incredibly complex operations. We're talking about cutting between a patient's ribs to drain their liver, or even drilling into their skull to relieve pressure on the brain. This kind of know-how just wouldn't be seen again for thousands of years. It's truly baffling.
And that right there, that's the central question of this whole investigation. How does a society just, go from zero to performing brain surgery? Well, funny enough, the Sumerians actually left us an answer. It's written right there in their own extensive records.
So, how do we explain this massive leap in knowledge? We turn to the primary source, the Sumerians' own testimony. And what they say is pretty mind-blowing. They claimed they didn't figure all this stuff out by themselves. Nope. They said they had teachers.
They called their teachers the Anunnaki, which basically translates to those who from heaven to earth came. Now in their texts, these aren't some kind of magical spirits or fuzzy gods. They're described as physical, humanoid beings who came down from the sky with a very clear mission here on Earth.
And this is where their testimony gets really specific. The Sumerian texts draw a straight line between what the Anunnaki supposedly needed and the exact technology they gave to humans. The story goes that the Anunnaki came here to mine for gold. So look at the innovations. You need to process ore? Here's metallurgy. You need to feed a massive workforce? Boom, advanced agriculture. You need to haul heavy stuff? Here's the wheel and the chariot. The technology perfectly matches the alleged motive. It's a little too perfect.
But here's where the account takes an even crazier turn. The text claimed that in order to create a workforce that was smart enough and capable enough for the job, the Anunnaki literally performed genetic engineering. They claim they tinkered with the DNA of the early humans living at the time to create a brand new species, us, Homo sapiens.
I know, it's a completely wild story. But any good investigator knows you can't build a case on a single testimony, no matter how detailed. You need corroborating evidence. And that's where this whole thing goes from a local case to a global one. The trail doesn't just stay in Mesopotamia, it spreads across the entire planet.
Our first clue, our Exhibit A, is this really strange symbol. I mean, it looks just like a handbag, right? It's carved into a stone pillar at a place called Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. And this site is over 11,000 years old. That's way older than Sumeria, older than pottery, older than even agriculture. It's a massive historical anomaly all by itself.
But here's where it gets really weird. As you can see, this exact same object keeps popping up in cultures that supposedly never met. We see it here, being held by an Olmec god in ancient Mexico. It shows up in Sumerian carvings held by the Anunnaki themselves. It's even described in stories about ancient China's first emperor. So, how does the same strange symbol show up across thousands of years and thousands of miles? So let's jump back to Göbekli Tepe for a second. Its main feature is these enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, all arranged in perfect circles. Carving and moving these 100-ton blocks would be a huge challenge for us today, let alone for hunter-gatherers 11,000 years ago. It's an engineering mystery that archaeologists are still trying to solve.
And just like the handbag, this style of building isn't just in one place. We find similar massive T-shaped structures all over the ancient world, from Stonehenge in England to sites in Jordan and Armenia. And they all have one thing in common. They're believed to be places where people worshipped, you guessed it, sky gods.
The patterns just keep on coming when you start looking at the mythologies. Just compare the families of gods from these cultures that were supposedly worlds apart. The roles are almost identical. The head Sumerian god Enlil is a storm god who brings a great flood. Sound familiar? That's just like the Greek god Zeus. The goddess of love, Inanna, is a dead ringer for Egypt's Hathor and Greece's Aphrodite. It's like they were all telling the same core stories, just using different names.
So where does this trail of clues actually lead us? We've got a recurring symbol, a shared building style, and parallel myths, all showing up in ancient cultures that shouldn't have been connected at all. How do we start connecting these dots?
Well, the source material we're examining lays it all out in a really clear four-step argument. First, you start with the Sumerian anomaly, that sudden leap in knowledge. Step 2, you actually read their own explanation. They were taught by visitors from the sky called the Anunnaki. Step 3, you go looking for corroborating evidence, and you find these clues, the symbols, the buildings, the myths, all over the globe. So step 4, the theory. These can't all be coincidences. It must be evidence of a single, continuous influence guiding humanity's development.
And this brings us right back to where we started. The theory connects all these global breadcrumbs back to that one really startling claim from the Sumerian texts, that the Anunnaki didn't just teach humanity, they engineered us, that they gave us a genetic push that unlocked our potential and basically kickstarted civilization. So here's the question all of this evidence leaves us with. Are these ancient myths just imaginative stories our ancestors told around the campfire? Or could they actually be a historical record, a memory of a past we've completely forgotten? Is it possible that the evidence of our real origin story has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, carved in stone, written on clay tablets, just waiting for us to finally piece it all together?